Welcome back to the Grim Workshop. Today we're going to be using the scoop found on the Joe Flowers card, and we're going to be refining a cane pole that we made in a previous video. So this is just a quickie cane pole I made. I used the Bob Hansler card for this. So I used the saw to cut the bamboo shoots off. I trimmed the end with the saw, and then we used the hook and went and took it out and caught a fish with it. So no real challenge with that. This is a good, simple way to catch fish. You've got a lot more reach than hand casting most of the time when you improvise a fishing pole like this. But this one's pretty rough. This is a emergency or a survival cane pole, and I want to refine this and make this a little bit better. This could be a situation where you've met all your survival priorities. You've got a shelter, you've got fire, you've got water, you've got food, and maybe you're just waiting for rescue, or maybe you are building a food supply so you can self-rescue and walk your way out of here. But if you're going to be at camp for an extended period of time, it's best to keep your mind and your hands busy and work on projects that are going to make your experience better. So rather than just use this quickie cane pole, we're going to use that scoop on the Joe Flowers card, and we're going to address all these nubs on here. This is pretty rough looking. This is definitely something that could catch your hands. Especially if you were to catch a bigger fish or were to get excited because you haven't caught a fish in a few days. A nasty hook like this from a piece of bamboo will slice you pretty darn quickly, and that is the last thing you need in a survival situation. So this pole is maybe 12 feet long. This thing's pretty long, and it's still green right now. So as this dries, it's just going to become a better pole. So the longer I'm at camp, the better my fishing and hunting tools can be. So once this dries, I can try to straighten it a little bit, and we're going to address these nodes today. But there's a lot of different options and different poles that I'm going to show you. You can build any or all of them, or just leave it like this. It all depends on the tools and the skills that you have with you. Here's the Bushcraft Global Knife off the Joe Flowers card. You can see I've got a tick key here in the center, and I'm going to eliminate this line. I'm going to cut the braided line off here. We're going to use different line when we finish this pull out. Here's the scoop on the Joe Flowers card, and what I'm going to use this tool for today is going to be to use it similar to a draw knife. So this is my bench draw knife, and draw knives have a single edge, so you can use this bevel up or bevel down depending on how much wood you're trying to remove. So this is going to work similarly to a plane, a modern plane. So I'm going to pull towards me, and I can see how much wood it's taking off, and if I don't like how much it is, if I want to reduce that, I can flatten it out and take less. If I need to dig deeper, I can turn it down and dig more wood. So this is really handy if you're trying to flatten out an object. I use this a lot when I'm making bows. You can use this for making paddles. You can use this for making arrows. Anytime you're trying to take a piece of wood and take a flat shaving off the wood, this is a really good choice. So this would be the ideal tool to use, and this is probably the tool I'm going to have with me. You see our carry options here, when I can just slide this into an Altoids tin or have this in my wallet or my shirt pocket. And this thing is going to take up a substantial amount of space in my backpack. This is definitely something I am not going to have with me. A tool this size does have its limitations. You need to keep that in mind. This is not something I would want to tackle a larger project with. They do make travel or packable draw knives. This is a folding draw knife. So if you want to start looking through antique stores, you can find this kind of stuff. But again, unless I'm going out into the woods forever and have a cabin out there, or I went out to do a specific task, this is not something you're going to have with you. This is the packable version, and this thing is still way too big and way too heavy to carry 99% of the time. So if I was working with really soft wood or really green cane, I could just grab this by hand and just kind of pull it through. And in that case, it would work probably more like a card scraper or a cabinet scraper. I'm going to improvise handles for this, and that's going to mimic the handles on my draw knife. When you're using your survival gear like this, don't be closed-minded and just think about what's in your survival kit. Everything you've got is fair game at this point. And chances are, if you're out in the woods or whatever your situation is, you probably got there somehow. So we're going to use key rings and make improvised handles for this. So these rings are going to work great with this scoop. They would work really well with a saw. Anytime I need a two-hand tool and I've got keys in my pocket, I'm going to be pulling the key rings off of them. So those key rings make a great improvised handle, and I'm able to pull through these rough nodes, smooth out the entire pole. So when you're using one of these, you want to draw it towards you. And in this case, I want to dig a little bit. So I am putting the bevel down. If this was a smoother piece, and maybe this was the final pass on an arrow, in that case, I may put bevel up, depending on how much stock I'm trying to remove. But I am moving from base to tip. So the end of the cane pole is this way with the line on it. The butt of the cane pole is this way. The shoots are growing up, and I'm pulling them towards the top. The Joe Flowers card is pretty darn handy, and this scoop is definitely one of my favorite tools. I use a draw knife quite a bit around the house. And these key rings is a pretty good addition. That is not my idea, but I will definitely be using this again. Now you got to keep the size of this tool in mind. This is pretty darn small, so if you encounter something, some of those nodes were just a little bit too big and I just couldn't pull through them in one pull like I could with a full-size draw knife. So the trade-off with that is you just take smaller pieces. So I would ease up on the angle and just pull through a little bit at a time. You're going to get the same amount of work done. It's just going to take you a little bit longer. So this is some of the fun stuff you can do with these cards. I carry regular gear with me, so I'm not just wandering around the woods with a pocket full of survival cards. I carry a full-size knife. I have regular survival gear, but I don't carry everything. And a scoop like this is pretty unique. I don't have a tool that does this. If I was making a cane pole for an extended camp, or if I was making an arrow, I can use my knife, but drawing towards you like this, it's a little bit easier to see. It's pretty controllable, and it's a unique tool that I can't normally have access to.